Hi there, my name's John French, as some of you already know if you've seen my mission statement. This is going to be my first movie review for this blog, so really excited about that. One thing I forgot to say in my mission statement video was that the way I want to do these videos is before I get into the initial movie that I'm talking about, I want to talk about when I first saw the trailer, what I expected from the movie going in, whether I was excited for it or whether I kind of had my hopes, pushed down a bit and I wasn't expecting anything. Either way, I want to talk about what I expected from it before seeing the movie and then what I got after the movie to kind of compare those two. So, without further ado, the review that I'm going to be doing for this video is Maleficent. And I bringing this movie up because it recently came out in my community college that I'm going to, San Antonio College. They had a showing of it about 2 weeks ago. So I thought that I would go ahead and give that a whirl for a review. So when I first saw the trailer for this movie, I remember, I think my buddy and I were Monsters U or something. I can't remember what it was. But I remember seeing the trailer for this, and I was really excited for it because a fan of Maleficent. Not a huge fan, but I just really liked the way that villain was designed. I remember liking her from the Kingdom Hearts games, as funny as that sounds. Like, all the true fans are, so in love with Sleeping Beauty villain. I saw Sleeping Beauty when I was a child, but I was way too long for me to remember that. So the first time was when I started playing the Kingdom Hearts games, and she was like one of the main villains for the game. And as soon as she stepped on to the scene where all the other villains were talking, as soon as she started talking, I just looked at her and was like, ooh, she's definitely the leader. They could not have picked a better leader villain for this kind of game. So I like Maleficent a lot. And when I saw, Angelina Jolie was going to be Maleficent for this movie, I thought it fit really, really well with the way it looked. And I liked the tone that they were setting. It was very dark, very mysterious. They were trying to do the whole thing that they've been doing with like Snow White and the Huntsman, which I unfortunately never saw. I don't know if that was good or bad. I never checked the reviews. But I was intrigued by what they had to offer. So I said to my friend, I was like, we're seeing this movie. I went in to the movie with that kind of in mind. And I was under the impression when I saw the trailer, the way they had it was they had, Maleficent, or Angelina Jolie as Maleficent. She was doing the whole, scenes from the movie where she was at the coronation and she was placing the curse and it was all dark and everything. And then in the middle of the trailer, they showed, I didn't know it at the time, but it was Princess Aurora talking to her. And then she was saying the whole thing about, oh, I want things. And then they showed bits from her past. So that's how I thought the movie was going to be, where it was villain, meet the villain, learn about her past, learn maybe she's not so much of a villain, and then however it gets resolved. So when the movie first started, I was actually kind of surprised that they started with her, being the fairy with the wings and being kind of I don't know if she was the leader of that forest or if she was just the popular girl or whatever. But I was surprised with her being, that good person initially and having her meet the king, and showing that, she was just, an all-around. I did think that the way that they presented it, because the story is that, she gets her wings stolen by the king. They're in love at first, but then he realizes that he needs to kill her in order to become the king, but he can't do it, so he takes her wings, which scars her anyway. I was kind of surprised the way they did that, though, because it kind of felt like, I don't know, it kind of felt like it had that whole men are the cause of all our problems kind of feel to it, which it kind of makes me roll my eyes whenever I hear something like that. It's always that man-hating thing that just seems so overdone and so, it doesn't seem to have any thought behind it besides men suck. So there was that, and I was watching this movie, and I thought the visuals were fantastic. I loved when she did have her wings, when she was flying through the forest, and they showed the waterfalls and the animals and all this other stuff. That looked spectacular. When they flash forward to years later, there's the king is sending his army against her, and she's leading all the forest creatures into a battle, and she's flying through, and all this stuff's going on. That all looked awesome. I was actually watching this, and I was getting pretty. After that, though, after the wings get stolen, then that's when she kind of dons the black cloak and goes to attend the coronation, and that all stuff was really cool because, like I said, Angelina Jolie looks like she fits the role, and the way she put on that performance, it worked. I completely bought that was Maleficent doing, her bad stuff that she had to do for the curse and everything. I was kind of surprised, though, when they showed the good fairies that were supposed to be taking care of her throughout, like Sleeping Beauty. I was surprised that I understand that they're not supposed to be, like, good at being, parents and caretakers and everything. They, like, have no idea how stuff like that works. But I was surprised at how hard they hammered it. Like, not only were they not knowledgeable about being caretakers, they seemed to not really enjoy it either. Like, they didn't really care about Aurora. I forget their names, but I know that the main one was played by the same actress that played Dolores Umbridge in the Harry Potter movies. And as soon as I saw her, I was just like, oh no, is she gonna be, like, unlikable? And that's exactly what they were. They were just constantly fighting with each other. Not even in, like, not even like a we're sisters and we bicker but we still care about each other way. They just seemed to not like each other. And that really just put a bad taste in my mouth. It was to the point where they couldn't even take care of this child, and Maleficent was the one taking care of Aurora. And I was just looking at it like, really? Is that what we're doing with this? And the story that they were going with was that Aurora grows up and she meets Maleficent, and they have, like, this connection where Aurora brings out the goodness in Maleficent. And, I don't mind that idea, but I was just looking at the way they were doing it, and I just didn't buy it. Like, I didn't see why Maleficent was so drawn to Aurora. Obviously, Aurora was drawn to Maleficent. She was like, oh, you're the one who was taking care of me the whole time, so I get that. But I didn't really get why Maleficent cared about Aurora. There's, like, a little scene where they're talking about different stuff, and then I think she flings mud at Maleficent, and then they get into, like, this mud fight, and it's like the whole, ah, ha, 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 but I'm just like, and I'm like, really? It seemed very cliched, very overdone to me. And the thing about that is, in between the part where there's, like, the big war in the beginning, the part where Maleficent puts the curse on Aurora, and then there's, like, an ending where there's, like, a bunch of fight stuff going on, there's really not anything that's happening in the middle. It just seems very boring to me. There's a part where some soldiers get sent out from the king because it's like, oh, Maleficent's still doing stuff. We need to go fight her for some reason. I can't even remember why they were out there. I just remember that the soldiers were coming to get them. And by that time, Maleficent had found her sidekick person. I forget what the crow's name is, but it's the crow. And he's getting, he gets caught by these hunters who are going after this bird for some reason, and she turns him into a human. So then the hunters see that, and they're like, oh no, a devil possessed him or something, so they run away. And then after that, he's in service to Maleficent for, like, a life debt. So then when the soldiers get sent out to fight Maleficent, then she turns him into a wolf or a dog or something, and so he starts, like, going around fighting all the soldiers, and they're like, run away. And I was just looking at that, and I wasn't really invested in that fight like I was in the first one. I was looking, and I was like, they put that fight in there so we'd have something to look at, so we wouldn't. It's almost like they recognized that there was nothing going on, and they were like, oh crap, we might lose the audience by this point, quick, do a fight scene. And so that's the sense that I got from that. There's the point where, of course, Aurora learns... It's like they did in Sleeping Beauty, where she learns that she's a princess from the fairies, and she's like, oh no, how could you... And then she goes and finds Maleficent, and she's like, there's this witch that put a curse on me. And then she figures out that it was Maleficent that put the curse, and she's like, you were the one who did it! Oh no, I must run away to the castle now. So she gets taken back to the castle, and of course, just like in Sleeping Beauty, it's her birthday, 16th birthday, so she gets drawn to the spindle, and she does the, touch the spindle and goes into the coma thing. Um, so there's one point where the prince had met, I think the prince had met Aurora once, but, and even though they were kind of like, curious about each other, they didn't really seem to have that like love connection like they did in Sleeping Beauty, which even then it was kind of silly, but it's like, hey, it's Disney, of course, they had no shame in really hiding that it was like silly and, hokey and stuff like that. And this one, it's like they were doing it, but there wasn't the magic there. It was just kind of like, oh, pretty guy. Oh, pretty girl. So, and that was pretty much it. So when she goes into the coma, the good fairies, they find the prince and they're like, oh, you have to kiss her. That'll wake her up because it's true love's kiss that'll wake her up. So he goes over and he kisses her and they're all waiting, but she doesn't wake up. And they don't understand why. They're not getting what it is. And obviously they say like, oh, well, that means he's not her true love. And the prince has this very like bumbling way of coming to terms with that. They don't really disguise the fact that he's just a prince and like that's all he knows. He's like, oh, but she's so beautiful and I'm drawn to her. I'm not her true love. I don't understand that. And that seemed very silly to me. It's like they really wanted to make the guys in this movie unlikable. Like the king was just selfish and he just wanted to be king and he would, hurt anyone who got in his way for it. And the prince was just like, oh, I'm just a good looking guy. I don't know anything else. That got on my nerves big time. So like the thing was that Maleficent was the one who really loved Aurora and she didn't think she was going to be able to wake Aurora up. So she just like kissed her on the head thinking like, oh, goodbye. I'll never see you again. But as soon as she does that, then Aurora wakes up. It's like, oh, so she's the true love. And I don't know really what they were going for that. I don't know if they were trying to do like the sisterly love, motherly love, or like lovers thing. I don't really know what they were going for on that. It was nice, but still kind of confusing. By that point, I was so bored and annoyed with the movie, I was hoping to see the dragon, because I thought that in Sleeping Beauty and in Kingdom Hearts, that Maleficent's dragon was like the coolest thing I'd ever seen. I think that dragon looks so awesome. It's so big. It's got that long neck. It's got glowing eyes. It just looks scary for something that's Disney, And I saw glimpses of that in the trailer, so I was like, ooh, dragon, yeah, that's gonna look good. So at this point, I was so annoyed with the movie, I was like, just show me the dragon so I can get out of here. Because I was seriously about to walk out of this movie. But I was like, no, I might as well just see the dragon. I've gotten this far. There's a point where they're trying to get out of the castle, and the soldiers, they trap Maleficent. She can't get out. And her crow human servant is like looking at her. And then she just goes, turn to a dragon. And as soon as I heard that, it's like, really? It's not even you that's going to be the dragon? It's going to be the servant? And so he turns into the dragon, and he, it looks decent, and he does some really cool stuff. I was like, why isn't Maleficent being this dragon? So that annoyed me. And then she gets her wings back somehow, because the king had kept her wings in a case, and then the wings flew out and rejoined with Maleficent, which I was laughing at. I thought that was really funny sounding. But she and the king had this battle, and she, throws him off a roof, and he dies. And then Aurora comes out, sees that her father's dead, sees that Maleficent was the one who did it. She's just kind of like, okay, I guess he's dead then. And so they go back to the forest, and she makes the forest, light again, because she had made it dark because she was upset. She's brooding and made the forest dark because she felt like it. So she and Aurora go back, and they make the forest light again, and everybody that was, a prominent character in the movie goes and sees, and I don't really know. I forgot how they did this. They make it look like a wedding, but it's not a wedding. It's like Maleficent's making Aurora the queen of the forest or something like that. And they have the prince there, and he just doesn't really say anything. He's just kind of like just there. And they have the three good fairies there, and they say something. I forget what they say, but they say something that kind of has this double meaning behind it. That's they're saying something to be nice, but they're not being sincere about it. They're saying something to make them look good. And Maleficent recognizes that. She's like, shut up! And then the Dolores Umbridge's character, she's like, oh, okay then. So it's kind of like that final little stick. It's like, just in case you couldn't understand, these fairies are not likable. Even though they're good fairies, they're not good fairies. We need you to understand that. It's like, okay, we get it. We get it so much that it's obnoxious. Stop. So that's that. And there was one little line, like right before the movie ended. It was Angelina Jolie being the narrator saying, so see, the way that you've heard it is not entirely true. It played out a different way, and it was thanks to Maleficent that it turned out this way. And to me, it sounded so, like, fake. It almost sounded like this is a story that the evil Maleficent would tell somebody else in order to save herself. And I said that. I remember saying that to a friend of mine, and she actually told me that the original story that, they based Sleeping Beauty off of actually played out more like the movie did, where Maleficent was a good fairy that was wronged and then went, brooding and had this curse for revenge. So, okay, that's fine. The movie is closer to the story than Sleeping Beauty was. That's fine. But still, it just was not interesting to me. It was, except for the very beginning, which I thought was visually stunning, it was boring throughout the middle, had just nothing going on for it, and the side characters just seemed very unappealing. And I understand that they were trying to make them unappealing on purpose, but it just felt so, like, unbelievably unappealing. Like, okay, come on, no one really acts like this. Or, just there's a point where you can make something, like, even if you're trying to instill that feeling with us, there's a point where it's, like, overdone. Like, dude, back off. I understand that these are unlikable characters. So that's what it felt like to me. Yeah, that's all I really have to say to it. Thank you very much for watching, guys. I'll see if I can start doing a little bit more relevant movies. More start coming out that I can get to seeing on a, as they come out. So that way it's not like something that happened earlier in the year. But I'll do both relevant movies and I'll do stuff from the past. Mix of both. So thank you very much for watching, guys. See you next time.